as I've said before, even though there is a lot of stuff going on around Boris Johnson at the moment, all of it's already been said already. We know Partygate's being invested. We've got to wait at the moment for the Sue Gray report to come out. But as you can see from the little corner, you can see that the Downing Street parties are being investigated now by the Metropolitan Police. I did this, that was announced, less than an hour, more than an hour ago at this point. And we've now got to wait and see. Obviously, this will be coming out on Wednesday, so PMQs will no doubt be quite a big spectacle again this week. So I will probably have to push back out of what I was planning to do on Wednesday yet again to cover what happened at PMQs this time. So I'll look forward to seeing you all there. But one of the big things, of course, that we do need to cover is definitely the fact that Brexit is still going to be an ongoing issue. The fact that even if somehow Boris magically manages to survive, and there are theories that Boris somehow might magically manage to survive, he might put enough Tory MPs off not sending enough letters to the 1922 committee. He may indeed survive just by his fingernails holding on in a vote of no confidence. He may just manage to skim through that. There's a lot of potential scenarios he may well survive. And remember, this is Teflon Johnson we're talking about. He has survived far more damaging scandals that have taken out far more competent politicians than him. So there is every opportunity that he could survive. But whoever replaces him, or even if Johnson himself somehow manages to survive, he cannot bluff his way through Brexit any much longer, because as much as they continually pontificate about the gloriousness of the benefits of Brexit, there are no benefits of Brexit. Hence why they have no opportunities to bash on about them. Because trust me, if there was a benefit of Brexit, they would be plastering the airwaves with how wonderful Brexit is going at this moment in time, especially now with what's going on with Boris Johnson. So let's go diving into this, because as we've said before, Brexit is still a problem. And trust me, whoever takes over Johnson, even if Johnson manages to survive, Brexit ain't going anywhere for a long, long time to come. So as always, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can always buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all the people who do support the channel that way. So on with the show. This comes from The Guardian, with Brexit's Falstaff can't bluff his way through this any longer. Way back in the mid-1960s, during the quiet summer, a former journalist turned public relations man persuaded the chairman of a public company to conduct a search for the Loch Ness monster. Quiet summers used to be known in Fleet Street as the silly season. One day, the PR man responsible for whatever was essentially a publicity stunt was called into the chairman's office, and the chairman, a retired general, was in a state of panic. Said, "What on earth are we going to do if we find the monster?" he said. He replied saying, "It's all right, sir. No need to worry. There is no monster." I'm reminded of this episode. By the way, those Brexiteers who have not already admitted their gross disservice to a once admired nation have been arguing that the government should do more to promote the advantages of Brexit. They have a slight problem. There is no Loch Ness monster, and there are no advantages to Brexit. Brexit is an unmitigated disaster, and the damage is getting worse. I fear that the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, is so impressive in his forensic demolition of the Prime Minister that is still Boris Johnson during PMQs, is living in cloud cuckoo land. If he really believes that there is no case for rejoining the EU, so we have to make it work. There is every case for rejoining the EU. The only question is how much economic and social damage we will have to accrue before reality actually dawns. And reality does take time to dawn, but when it does so in spades. Tories have been trying themselves in knots over what to do and how to give the Prime Minister his marching orders. But the voters have not. For far too long, they have given Johnson the benefit of the doubt. And I'm still reeling from the shock of hearing the disenfranchised establishment figure saying before Christmas, I am beginning to warn Boris, but this Falstaffian joker has been rumbled. The respondents to recent polls have been, in effect, take the role of Henry V in Shakespeare and Henry VI two-part in Address to Falstaff. I know thee not, old man, fall to thy prayers. How ill white hairs become a fool and jester. So far, the damage caused by Brexit has been shrouded by the unmistakable obsession with COVID. However, it was well described in an important survey by John Bloom in the current issue of the New European. The UK is forcing self-inflicted defeats on its exporters, service and manufacturing services and the economy time and time again, with no victories to offset the losses. He quotes the economist Adam Posden, describing Brexit as a trade war, but a war the UK declared on itself. During the first year of Brexit, Bloom writes that faced with the proliferation of red tape that has cropped up, not because of Brussels, but owing to the departure from Brussels, a fifth of small British businesses decided exporting to the EU was not worth the candle. Now, food and drinks exporters to the EU have fallen by a quarter since 2019. And according to the Centre for European Reform, the UK goods trade is almost 16% lower, 16% lower than it would have been without the, quote, sovereignty of Brexit. As one of my favourite Roman poets, Juvenal, wrote, difficile est santorum non scribere. I think that's how you say it. It is not hard to write satire. The complexity of the Brexit rules of origin regulations for trade, such as that exporters now need an extra year to attempt to cope with the documentary requirements. Some 300 million extra customs declarations are to be required when the postponed rules start applying. And in order to administer this nonsense, some extra 50,000 extra customs officials are needed. This is wholly unproductive. With the advent of the European single market in 1993, the removal of custom protocols provided huge gains in productivity. We are now in a world of unproductive time wasting, all part of the 4% plus loss of annual income and output that is in the inevitable result of Brexit. As the disillusionist former Tory Chief Secretary to the Treasury and Justice Minister David Gauke writes in the current New Statesman, the reality is that Brexit means putting up taxes because the economy is smaller than it otherwise would have been, and erecting trade barriers and imposing new regulatory burdens on business, Gauke adds. The interesting tendency is to blame Johnson's big state instincts for this predictable turn of events. The trouble is that Johnson packed the cabinet with his own conspiring against with him the Brexiteers. Whether or not David Davis was in a Brutus mood urging Johnson in the name of God to go, let us beware the words of the third citizen in Julius Caesar. I fear there will be worse to come in his place. Wake up, Keir, and please attack Brexit for what it is. And I would, again, join in on that as well. Like I said before, you know full well, people who, again, follow this channel know that I'm a Labour Party member. I do urge it's time to take a turn on that. The problem is we need to see, and especially Labour does need to see, a return in the polls that this does need to change. And just recently, we have seen the polls indeed start to change, that people in the UK want a close relationship with the EU, meaning that they do actually favour returning to the customs union and single market. Not the EU fully yet, which is, again, to be honest, where we need to be, but things are indeed turning. Public opinion is turning slowly but surely. Remember, the Brexiteers promised that we would remain in the single market and customs union. Remember the infamous words of Daniel Hannan, aka the brain of Brexit, the man who had an answer for everything, said, we're not talking about leaving the customs union or single market. Indeed, only a fool would leave the single market. And yet, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. So it is only a matter of time before even, shall we say, even the sensible Tories have to even indeed take the Brexiteers in hand and say, stop being silly. So it is only a matter of time before, again, thoughts of rejoining start to indeed resurface, not only in Labour, but even indeed the Tories themselves will start to see the realities of what their, shall we say, once proud project has done to them, and recognise the importance of actually having to reverse their very own decision that they indeed once championed. And sooner or later, it will be on these Brexiteers to fall from grace, and it will require them to fall from grace, starting, of course, with their cheerleader, Boris Johnson. And of course, whoever steps up next will probably be yet another prominent Brexiteer. They themselves will probably end up falling on the Brexit sword as well. And it may take maybe another couple of two, at least maybe 2 or 3 Tory leaders to fall upon this sword. But sooner or later, the call will come. Remember, it was the Tory businesses that, forced, was it Ted Heath, to start the process for us joining the European, common economic area in the first place. And it will be businesses again that will force the Tories into doing this. They're already slowly but surely starting their calls, and sooner or later, those calls will become deafening. And one of the things I've always said, even though I'm a Labour supporter, I will join with anyone who is like, we need to rejoin the EU, because this isn't a single party issue. This is in the national interest. Whether you are on the right or on the left, we can always agree that leaving the European Union and Brexit was a bad idea in the national interests for the UK, and that we need to rejoin. So I am very, very happy to join with, again, reach hands across the aisle and work towards this outcome. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can always buy me coffee. And of course, we'll see you all later at 7 o'clock GMT time later this evening for our live stream, no doubt probably covering what happened in PMQs today. So we'll see you all then.